A very good evening. Welcome to the Women's Roundtable here on Thursday, May the 19th, 2022. I'm Marvellous Mhlanga Nyahuye.
And I'm Sithandekile Mhlanga.
And tonight on the Women's Roundtable, we are going to be looking at the high increase in domestic violence cases. As the pandemic is slowly closing down, there are reports that there's been a high incidence of domestic violence during the actual pandemic when people were in lockdown. Organizations like Musasa Project reported that there had been an increase in the number of women that were coming to report about domestic abuse.
Yes, Marv, and coupled with what's happening now in the country, that prices are also rising, the prices of commodities. Some women are saying this is likely to fuel the domestic violence as well, because usually it's the frustrations that are there in the homes that usually generates into fights. You find that if the men feel they can't provide for the families enough, they tend to be hostile. But of course, domestic violence can be both ways, from women or from men or from the children. But the ones that we usually see reported are the ones against women, and usually with such cases rising because of frustrations at home, because of economic decline, because it's destroying many families which were thriving before.
Yes, Sithandekile, we also see that, the police are also actually confirming that there has been a rise in domestic violence cases that are being reported to the police. But they're also urging that women, especially if they are violated or their children are violated, they should actually utilize the victory-friendly unit of the police to report their cases. Because we've seen in the past that some women will go to the police and report a case, but as soon as the husband comes, they talk it out and then they withdraw the case. But then when there are now issues where, in some instances, we've seen that some women do get killed when, some of these incidents go unreported.
Yes, Marv, and we have spoken in the past to some ward councillors who actually go and also offer the affidavits when they are withdrawing these cases. They were saying they do get such cases, and usually it's because the women will say the husband is the breadwinner. If he's gone, what will the children eat? Some is just forgiveness, but they say the cycle goes on and on and on. Yikho ke esiyabe sikhuluma ngakho namhlanje kulabo ke abasanda ukusixhuma sikhonapha ke ku Livetalk, the Women's Roundtable, lapho esixoxa ngendaba ezehlukeneyo, sixoxa labesifazana ngokuba khathazayo. Lamhla ke sikhangela udaba lwe-domestic violence, ukuhlukuluzana ezindlini. Sikhangela lentengo yempahla elokhu ikhuphuka okungapheliyo. Njalo siyananzelela ukuthi kulomthelela ukubhidlika komnotho welizwe lodlakela ezindlini nxa abesifazane esesake sakhuluma labo lengcwethi ezicubungula okuphathelane labesifazane abalwela amalungelo abesifazane bakhuluma ngokufanayo ukuthi hayi kungaba lokuswelakala kwempahla eningi ezindlini, kwande ukuthi labesilisa labo babe lolaka, kube lokuchayana. Kodwa hayi kuthiwa udaba lolu lwe-domestic violence lubuya inxa zombili. Kungaba ngowesifazana la uhlukuluza owesilisa, kungaba ke ngowesilisa ohlukuluza owesifazana ngabantwana. Kodwa hayi kukhanya kuningi ngabesilisa abehlukuluza abesifazana. Ngani ngocwaningo esilutholayo emapholiseni kumbe kunhlanganiso ezilwela amalungelo abesifazana ziveza ukuba kulodubo lapha luyenzeka. Yikho ke esixoxelaye lamuhla ubesitshela ukuthi unkosazana uthile yasibandalayo olwela amalungelo abesifazane ekunhlanganiso yebula Progressive Residents Association, la ubesitshela ukuthi hayi okunje kuyakhathaza ngoba nxa vele sokulokuhluphayo okunjalo ezindlini kwande ukuthi kube lodlakela. Bajayele ukubona ke laba ngabantu asebasebenza kakhulu labalwela amalungelo oluntu. Yesizwe ke ukuthi yena ubesithini ngodaba lolu ke olwe domestic violence lokukhuphuka kwentengo yempahla lokuthi ukuhlanganisa njani.
Indlela izinto ezikhuphuke ngayo ezitolo kuyenza impilo ibe nzima, yona ibe vele inzima ngoba evela abantu bengela msebenzi, bengenelisi ngitsho lokuziphilisa, and benza impilo yabantwana ibe nzima ngoba nxa uthumela umntwana esikolo engela nto eyidlileyo, ungenelisi ngitsho lokumthengela isinkwa sokuthi athwale, kuyenza umntwana lemfundo yakhe iyehle ngoba nxa umntwana elambile uyaphambaniseka thize ezifundweni zakhe. Izinto zikhwele okudlulise amalawulo, njalo omunye lomunye ulendlela yakhe afaka ngayo intengo azilingani phakathi kwedolobho, okuthi ukuthi so wonke umuntu usesenza umathanda. Kulabo abalamabhizimusi angilathemba ukuthi bayaphumelela ngoba khathesi sokusenzakala wena uthi ulebhizinisi yakho ulamagrosi akho, phambi kwamagrosi akho kulomuntu ohleziyo laye othengisa into ezifanana lento ozithengisayo phambi kwamagrosi akho, okudala ukuthi ibhizinisi lakho lingahambi ngendlela njalo lingaphumeleli. Kulabo abemsika abathengisa okuncane, omama abathengisa amatamatisi bayakhala ngoba lento zakhona zisawodeki, kuba nzima labo ukuthi befake intengo elenzuzo phezulu ngoba kuyenza lezinto zabo zicine zingapheli ngendlela abazithengisayo, okudala ukuthi impilo iqhubeke isiba nzima emuntwini wesifazana onguye ngumgogodla womuzi, umgogodla wendlu, ngoba umama uyiyo insika yeguma lakhe. Bonke ubunzima bubuya phezulu kwakhe, abantwana babuya kumama besithi silambile, ubaba laye uyabe ekhangelele ukuthi umama apheke ukudla okwenelayo, okuyenza kucine kuyenza uhlupho lwe-domestic violence lungapheli phakathi kwemizi ngoba indaba yemali lokuswelakala kwempilakahle ezindlini kudala ukukhula kwe-domestic violence, abantu bexatshaniswa yinzuzo kuphela ezindlini, osokwenza ubudlwangudlwangu buqhubeke bukhula njalo bungabi lenano lokuthi kuyehle phakathi kwemizi. Okunye esikukhangelayo akusokuyenza obaba behluleke lokuphila kuhle lemuli zabo, loba ade ngubaba ongela lana, kodwa ngenxa yokuswela inzuzo kwenza impilo endlini iwome, ingabi lula kumuntu wesilisa. Njalo indaba yokuswelakala komsebenzi phakathi kwaleli lizwe iyiyo eluhlupho kakhulu oludlulise amalawula ngoba wonke umuntu usephila ngokuthengisa, akusela muntu okwanisa ukuthengela omunye ngoba sonke siyathengisa njengabahlali, njengabomama, wonke umuntu uyathengisa.
Well, interesting perspective there from Otilia Svanda. She is the chairperson of the women's branch at the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association. She's explaining to us there about the difficulties faced by women, and that, of course, they are seeing the cases of domestic violence coming up. And she attributes this to the economic hardships, that even someone who wasn't that abusive can be abusive because of lack of resources. The men are not going to work anymore. There are problems in the home. They end up, the cases of domestic violence end up prevalent. And of course, she's mentioning the food prices. She's saying this is what most families are facing, the food price hikes, that there are difficulties here in securing what women want to get in order to feed their children. You find that everyone is selling almost anything and no one can buy from the other. You are selling tomatoes, but your neighbor is tomatoes too, and your friend who will buy from you. And those who manage to have businesses, say bigger businesses, they try to make their businesses work. But those who are selling smaller, quantities, vegetables, they'll just go and sit there by their shops, meaning they won't get the proceeds that they want. So she's saying they found this relationship between these economic hardships and the rising case of domestic violence. Marvellous. Over to you.
Thank you very much, there, Star. We are lucky that we've been joined on the program by our first guest. Tinokuchingamidzai kune avo vapinda muchirongwa nhasi tiri kutarisa isu nyaya yekushungurudzwa kwemadzimai kuri kunzi iko kuri kuwanikwa kuchikwira munyika pari zvino, uyezve tichiona kuti denda reCovid-19 richiriko, asi kune dzimwe nzvimbo rati rerukei. Tine munyarikani wedu wekutanga, regai tivachingamidze. Makadii pano pachirongwa?
Tinofara. Notenda, thank you so much for having me on the program. I have to apologize in advance. I was kind of on the run, so there might be some background noise, but I really wanted to be here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Just tell us about yourself and why you're on the run today. I know that you've just been honored for a prestigious award, and also we then go into domestic violence.
Yeah, thank you, Aunt Margaret. Thank you. Today is a big day. It's a big day for me as a child of Zimbabwe, living in the diaspora. I believe the first Zimbabwean to actually receive this fellowship. It's called a Bush Fellowship, and it's only given every year to 24 leaders across the country. And for me to be one of the 24 out of over 2,000 applications is such an honor. So I'm on the run, and I'm also on the run because I'm receiving another mayoral award tonight. In one of the local cities where I do my work. But back to domestic violence, it is very disheartening that during this season, with the pandemic, domestic violence cases have indeed gone up. Not only domestic violence cases, as the former presenter was presenting, but also sexual violence. We know that whenever there's any kind of pandemic or any social issue, like war, in this case, the pandemic, the women and girls and children are the ones that suffer the most. They're usually what I call the low-hanging fruit. So I will connect here in the US. We've seen a hike, 45% in my state, of domestic violence related homicides. In fact, in the last month, we've buried 3 women from our community. So those numbers say something. And then tying it back to Zimbabwe, I continue to receive high cases of child sexual abuse, and that continue to go really unsolved in a very ethical way because of corruption. And we can go more into that. But the pandemic has posed for us high rates of domestic violence. I also want to say that my work is really around creating sustainable solutions. We really need some sustainable solutions for women. The number one is economic empowerment. If a woman is not economically empowered, it's very hard for her to live that vicious cycle of domestic violence. There's a need for women to be economically empowered, and that is the model that I try to go for with the work that I'm doing here in Minnesota, as well as in Zimbabwe, that we empower our women and girls so they can make choices, and that marriage does not have to be a prison sentence for them, that they stay in until their death because they don't have choices. Yeah, thank you, Aunt Marvin. That's what.
Okay, tombopinda neshona kuti tikuona nhasi mukuti imi mawanikwa muchiremekedzwa. Maremekedzwa nei uyezve mubva matitaura nemabasa amuri kuita mukubatsira madzimai ari kushungurudzwa?
All right. So zuva ranhasi chandataura izuva rakandikoshera kunyanya nekuti ndapiwa fellowship inonzi Bush Fellowship. Bush Fellowship ndorimba ndini muZimbabwe wokutanga kuona iyo fellowship iyoyi. I-fellowship inopiwa kune vanoti vatungamiri community leaders. Gore rega about 2,000 applications anoiswa for this Bush Fellowship. Saka it's very competitive. Yakantorera about 6 months kuti apply interviews upon interview. I-fellowship inopiwa $100,000 kuti ukwanise kumbowana zororo. So yavanoti self-care. Inini fellowship yangu ndenge ndichipedza doctoral studies in psychology. My focus is prevention yechild sexual abuse nekuti dambudziko ratinaro ndichange ndichishanda nemamwe maprofessors anoita iyo research iyoyi ndozvandakanyanya kukumbira kumari iyoyi. Imwe yachona ndichakumbirisa kuti ndakakumbira mari kuti ndikwanise ndichispenda time namai vangu nekuti tiri mudiaspora hatiwani mukana wekupedza nguva nevabereki vedu, saka ndenge ndichinge ndiri kuzimbabwe ndichitawo basa irori randiri kuita kuno kuamerica. And then usiku hwanhasi ndichange ndichipiwa award nameya Lisa Jacobson. Ndo meya vemucity inonzi Brooklyn Park ndo inogara at least about 46,000 Liberian refugees. A lot of Africans live in that city, and she's honoring me today nebasa randiri kuita mucity iroro kubatsira ma-Africans abi edu vanobva kunyika dzakasiyana-siyana. Saka ndo zviri kuitika nhasi Aunty Marve.
Tombopinda pabasa ramuri kuita rekubatsira madzimai. Sangano renyu rinonzi chii uyezve muri kubatsira sei madzimai vanenge vashungurudzwa?
Basa redu Aunty Marve ndakatanga program iyoyo nekuda kwenyaya yangu kunga vazhinji vanoiziva. Iniwo ndakasurvive domestic violence, asi pandakabuda mumarriage yoyo kumama ndairohwa nekushungurudzwa, ndakaona zvakawanda zvinodzivisa vakadzi kuti vasabude, kunyanya yemari. Kana mukadzi asina pake pekubata, kazhinji anowanzocompromisa. Unonzwa vakadzi vakawanda vachiti ndiri kugarira vana, asi pakugarira vana vari kuona zviri kuitika izvi, ende kana vari vana vakomana vanotozodzidza unge chinhu chakanaka. Ndo dzatinoti dziye cycle of violence. Saka ndakadecide kuti ndibude mairi. Pandakabuda ndikaona kuti panga paine ma-resources anga ari lacking for madzimai akazvarwa kuAfrica. Saka ndakatanga chirongwa chinonzi Pumolani, Minnesota African Women Against Violence. And ndaida kungoti ndivakewo platform inobatsirawo madzimai akabva kuAfrica, nekuti zvinhu zvedu magariro atinoita nechivanhu chedu zvakati siyane nema-Americans. Saka maprograms anga aripo anga akavakirwa vakadzi vechichena. Saka inini ndakatanga kuti tinofanira kuti titsvage maprograms anoitira madzimai edu ekuAfrica. For example, madzimai ekuAfrica kana wabva wasiya musha wako, unenge dzimwe nguva ndobikira vana vako sadza, iwe uri mushelter muri kupiwa macaroni and cheese. Vana havaiziva, havana kuijaira. Saka tunhu tinoita kunge tunhu tudiki, asi zvinhu zvinozoita kuti mudzimai apedzisira adzokera zvakare kune munhu anomuabusa. Kazhinji paanodzokera kechiviri papa kechitu anopedzisira aurayiwa. Saka ndo program yedu tinoprovide housing support. Tinoshanda one of the largest departments, federal departments here, Office of Justice Department. Vakatipawo mari yakati one day inotibatsira kuti tinge tichibatsira madzimai vachienda go through legal processes. Kana mukadzi achibva kuAfrica achienda go through custody, immigration, tinobatsira nemari idzodzo. Kana mudzimai anoda kwepandemic kana arohwa maybe aenda kuchipatara, tinobatsira kukavha mari dzevana dzedaycare. Ndoda kungoti hangu inini president vedu vari muno muAmerica, President Biden, vanoratidza kusapota kwavo madzimai. Uyezve ndinoda kuramba ndichinamata kuti dai taonawo vakuru vedu pakatekeshera pese kuAfrica vange vachisapotawo madzimai sekubatsirwa kwatinoita kuno kuAmerica, nekuti vanoisa madzimai pamberi. And ndiri kuona kuti chirongwa chedu chiri kubatsira madzimai akawanda kuti abude. One of the most powerful success stories yandinayoko zvinosimavhe ndeye mukadzi anga ari akatrafikwa from kunyika kwavo akaunzwa kuno akaabuswa kusvika murume wacho anoda kutomurongera kumuuraya. Aida kungoti amuzvarise vana, vakaita vana 3. Munhu akamuunza kuprogram kwedu akamuunza achida kutozviuraya, anga asina kana anga agive up on life. But ndakashanda naye the last 1 year kutaura kuno ari mumedical school. Saka chirongwa chedu chinobatsira madzimai kuti varangarire kuti wanga umbori ani usati wapinda murelationship iyi. Uyezve tikunyanya kuda kufocusa on prevention. Prevention is better than cure. Zvekuti responded abuse yatoitika, it's too late. Totanga kupreventa abuse isati yaitika. Saka kushanda nevana vedu vakomana tinovadzidzisa sei kuti mudzimai anobatwa sei. Vana vedu vasikana tinovadzidzisawo sei kuti what is a partnership, relationship, zvinhu zvaunofanira kutozoita murelationship. Saka iko zvinezvi tiri kufocusa kazhinji, tiri kuda kufocusa on prevention. Iri basa randisiri kuda kungoita chete muno muAmerica, nekuti inini ndiri mugari wemuno asi ndiri chizvarwa chemuAfrica. Mwoyo wangu uri kuAfrica, saka ndicharamba ndichishingirira kuti tibatane nevakuru vedu vehurumende vari kuafrica kuti tikwanise kunge tiri kubatsira madzimai. Muna July muno ndikuenda kuKenya nekuSouth Sudan, tinosangana nevakuru venyika ikoko, Ministry of Gender Affairs. Tinoramba tiri kubatsirana. Ende ndoda kuti tiri pachirongwa panapa handidi kuti vanhu vafunge zvekuti hanzi muri mafeminist. Ini handisi feminist, nokuti feminism yakatangwa nevakadzi vechichena. Ini ndinoti I'm a womanist, I'm for women, ndosapota madzimai. Nekuti zvemusha mukadzi, tikasasapota madzimai edu misha inowondomoka. Saka ndoda kuti tingoti tibatsirane ipapo kuti zvefeminism tombosiya. Haisi war between men and women. What it is actually is to build our women, is to build our homes. When our women are free from violence and our girls are protected, tinoona nyika dzakasimba, tinoona ma-communities dzakasimba. We find strong villages. In a nutshell, Aunty Marve, ndo basa randiri kuita, basa randofunga kuti ndakadaidzwa kuti ndiite. Yeah.
Pane vamwe vasingazive nyaya yenyu yekuti imi makambowanikwa muchishungurudzwa, vakakutarisai vanoti mudzimai akasvika kudai angashungurudzwa here? Mungambotsanangura here kuti zvakafamba sei?
Iwo madzimai anenge akaita kunge akasvika akangwarira ndo anonyanya kushungurudzwa, nekuti ndotoona kuti vashunguridzi vacho vanototaimira. Vanenge vaine challenge vanenge vachida, vaya varume vatinoti vari narcissistic, vanotokutaimira vachiona ma-qualities awinawo. And then the mission yavo ndeyekukubreaka down, handisi. Asi inini nyaya yangu haina kungotanga kundichibuda mumba umu. Nyaya yangu yakatanga ndiri mwana, handisika ndiri mwana ndiri kuZimbabwe, zvinhu zvakaitika ndiri mwana. Kusanganisirawo kuva yatinoti witness yeabuse. Mai vangu vanga variwo marriage yakadaro. Uri mwana, madzimai vaye vanoti vari kumirira, vari kugarira vana. Rega ndikutaurira kuti nyaya yekugarira vana chinhu chakashata, nekuti vana vanogara muenvironment yavanenge vachiona mai vavo vachishungurudzwa zvinova affecta iye atinoti childhood trauma. Ndo yana ndinayo. Mukatarisa vanasikana vanokura nemadzibaba, madzibaba anochengeta madzimai avo zvakanaka, kazhinji vanonoroorwa nevarumewo vari healthy. It's a cycle, it's a generational cycle. Ini handawo kunge ndiri privileged that way. Uyezve ndiri mwana mudiki, ndine mamwe abuse andakasangana nawo akazondi-affecta ma-choices angu ema-partners. So ndakapedzisira ndasangana nemunhu akazondi-abusa, anova ndiye anga ari baba vevana vangu. Even up to now tichiri mumazita edzimhosva, achiri kungoshandisa ma-courts kuti aite sei kuti aramba achindi-abusa nekutora vana nekunitorera vana. Asi ndakabuda, zvisinei hazvo ndakabuda. Ndo zvazvakanakira ndakakwanisa kunge ndiri kubuda muneyo imarriage. Chinhu changa chisina kupfava kana nanhasi, nekuti mudzimai ukabuda mumarriage unobva waita instant outcast pachivanhu chedu. Vanhu havadi nezvako. Ini kuno kwandiri kuno kuMinnesota ndakabva ndatovharirwa magoni akawanda. Vamwe vakati unoita shamwari naye sei iwe wakaroorwa, iye asina kuroorwa iwe wakaroorwa. Asi rega nditika kana munhu achinge abuda mumarriage hazvirevi kuti ave munhu ane chimwe chirwere chekuti anofanira kunge muchitosapota madzimai. Indofunga kuti kubuda mumarriage isina kumira zvakanaka chinhu chakanaka. Unenge waitira vana vako chinhu chakanaka, unenge waitira iwewe mwoyo wako zvakanaka, nekuti mhedzisiro yazvo rufu. Ini ndakasvika ipapo kuti ndakapotsa ndasvika pakudzokera kumba ndambobva kushelter. Ndakada kunge ndaluza upenyu hwangu, nekuti kana munhu achikuabusa anotanga mashoko oisa maoko ake pauri. The last thing achaisa maoko ake pauri chaizvo obva akupedzisa. Kuno kuAmerica tinoona maguns ari everywhere. Handiziwo kuZimbabwe zvakamira sei, asi tinongonzwa nyaya dzoti mumwe mukadzi angofa unongourayiwa. Saka ndoti aiwa, staying for the children haichazi excuse mukore uno, kune ma-resources. Saka ndo nyaya yangu Aunty Marve, ndakabuda. Iko zvino ndakubatsirawo madzimai kuti abude. Asi ndoda kutiwo nditi kana paine room for rehabilitation, ini ndinopromota mhuri dzine utano. Ndine mamwe macouples andoshanda nawo ngasona kuti mwanakomana uyu abuse yaari kuita haatoidi, asi zvinhu zviri ingrained maari nemakuriro akaita. Saka ndo patinounza matherapist dzimwe nguva. Number one priority yangu handidi kunge kwange ndiri mhunza musha. Toda kuti mafamilies agare ari healthy.
Some people who are listening might say, so are you advocating that women should leave if they are all being abused or what?
No, we do what we call a holistic scan of every individual situation. pane dzimwe mhuri dzekuti takatoti kana even mudzimai pamwe ndiyanga achida therapy anoenda kutherapy, baba voenda kutherapy, tounza family pamwe chete. Ndo aim yeprogram yedu. Tinoita it's culturally specific, that is hatidi kuti varume vedu vasungwe nekuti already muno muMinneapolis takaona kuti mapurisa emuno mandinogara even varume vechitema tikatanga kudaidza mapurisa zvinenge zvisina kumira mushe. Saka tinoshandisa madzitete, elders, mapasta. But kana paine situation inenge iriwo a little bit serious, tinoinvolve mapurisa. Saka it's case by case. It's case by case. Atiite one size fits all. My families, they've gotten back together because ingengori communication inozo escalate, especially munguva ino yeCovid. Vanhu vane stress.
Thank you so much. Please stay on the line. Over to you, Star.
Connect. May I also ask our guest one more question? Since I think she says she's on the run.
She's on the run, but she can hear you. You can.
Oh no! Yes. Okay. I will go.
I'm on.
Yes,
I'm on. Yeah, I'm on.
Yeah, that's good. I will go on with my question. What do you can you find any differences in the way women are facing problems here in the US, Miss Dondo, or can you say it's the same with Zimbabwe, or Zimbabwean women have it worse? Are women here because of economic prosperity better off than the women in Africa, in Zimbabwe, or it differs?
Right. Ndoda kuti domestic violence it knows no class, geography, socioeconomic. Domestic violence is not a respecter of person. Saka tikatanga kutarisa nyaya yekuti madzimai ari kuAfrica kana achienda through domestic violence, symptoms zvakafanana. Kutadza kwavo kubuda domestic violence relationship kwakatofanana. Kunyange ndinoshanda nemadzimai vamwe imwe atori therapist, but atadza kubuda 7 years, 8 years. Nekuti nature domestic violence inobata pfungwa dzemudzimai kuti atange kuzvibvunza kuti asi ini ndakanyasokwana here, nekuti munhu anenge achimumeka kuti afile kunge haasi enough, yatinoti gaslighting psychology. Tadaro nambotaura nyaya yekuti vatungamiri vedu venyika vanofanira kuti vainveste mumadzimai nevanasikana. President Biden vakasaina a couple $1 million bill. Iko zvino kuMinnesota kustate kwandiri governor vedu ndiri patask force ravo vakatipa, ndakakumbira kuti vaincrease mari nao takapiwa $12 million. Maorganizations anenge organization anoshanda nawo tinokwanisa kubatsira madzimai vari muno mari ndedzema-Americans, ifederal money. Ndikatarisa recent client wantu kubatsira kuSouth Africa, muZimbabwe, mwanasikana akapiswa neacid kumeso. Hapana akwanisa kumubatsira iko zvino nekuti nyaya yekuti hatina capacity. Kuti aitwe skin grafting yake kuZimbabwe, hapana capacity. Ndakaricha out nevakuru vedu venyika, Ministry of Women, hapana anokudaira. Saka inini ndotozvibhadhara mari. Executive director ndotora check yangu ndapedza kufidha vana, ndounza mwanasikana kuno kuti akwanise kubatsirwa. Toshanda nehospital kunonzi Mayo Clinic. Saka as far as capacity is concerned, I really want to urge our leaders on the continent, and I will speak as a Zimbabwean, our Zimbabwean leaders to say, let us invest in the girl child. Let us invest in our women. We get a lot of calls from young women, Zimbabwean women, some of them in the Middle East, because why they are moving, there are no opportunities, economic opportunities for them at home. Now we are selling the souls of our daughters. And so if we invest in them on the ground, they manage to have choices. If there are jobs for them, if we invest in them to develop their businesses, they don't have to make the choice between staying in an abusive relationship or dying in it. They can freely walk away. Saka chandona chakasiyana semataurira maita mukoma wangu ndechekuti kunoku kwatiri kuAmerica kunoku vakuru vedu venyika vanotiteerera, vanokanda mari maprogram anobatsira madzimai. Izvi zvinondibatsirawo kuti ndinge ndiri kubatsira madzimai abi edu. Zviri kundibatsirawo inini kuti ndinge ndiri kukwanisa kuzvibhadhara. Salary ndinobhadharwawo inini ndinokwanisawo kubatsira vamwe vangu madzimai vari kuZimbabwe. Maclients atinawo kuZimbabwe hatina funding yatinayo from any Zimbabwean organization on the ground. Most of the clients at Robert Sirako Zimbabwe, it's out of my own pocket. And so ndo masiyaniro akaita zvinhu. Tinoshandawo nemaprojects anenge musasa project asi ndozoti nemaomero akaita zvinhu kumusha capacity dzavo dzakasungwa a little bit. Asi tese tiri kutry, yeah. I hope
Maybe
that
you can say the same thing in English to the question that Star had asked. She was asking that, is there a difference that you see in the way or manner of abuse that women here in the United States are facing and those in Zimbabwe?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, I had gone on to say that nature, abuse manifests itself in the same way. It might show up differently because of economic opportunities, but it's the same thing. It takes up to 7 times for a woman to live. Whether she's educated, whether she's a PhD, whether she comes from wealth, domestic abuse is domestic abuse, and it manifests itself in the same ways. However, for the women on the West here, I just discussed how President Biden signed a bill, renewed the Vow of Violence Against Women Act bill, which any bill comes with money. So my governor here in Minnesota allowed us to have at least up to $12 million for the 90-something programs that provide services. The service provision here, I'll speak for Minnesota because that's what I'm well versed with, is excellent. We have platforms, we have resources. My organization right now, we are purchasing properties large enough to house women with multiple children. We continue to advocate for more money, for more properties, and our government listens. So I was saying the difference is the nature of service provision. I believe in Zimbabwe right now, things are really hard financially. I still help a lot of women. A lot of women call, especially child sexual abuse cases. They call, I've had to hire lawyers on the ground with my own money because the police forces, some of them, they're corrupt. I have 3 cases right now, same story. Children being molested, family member, someone influential, someone connected, and they're walking scot-free. So you can imagine how many more children they're accessing at this rate, that kind of person, if they're walking free. Because they pay the police, they tamper with the evidence, and so that's the difference. Here in the US, for example, if you molest a child, you know you're rotting in jail. And when you get out of jail, there's going to be tabs on you so that you don't abuse more children. So that is kind of the difference I see. And Aunt Marve, I'm really hoping that I will be able to do this work with this Bush Fellowship, that we can expand the work in Africa. And for me, obviously, home is Zimbabwe. So I'm hoping to collaborate with the Zimbabwean government, with our gender ministry, to be able to start healing our girls, protect our girls. As I say, the woman is the home, mushamkazi. And as long as our women are being abused and there's no remedies, there's no investment in them, we are essentially putting cracks in the foundation of our nation. And I really am a strong believer in that. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. I see Ottilia is back. Kodwa-ke lapho-ke besilisizwa-ke amazwi kaNkosazana Comfort Jondo-ke yena isiphathamandla-ke senhlanganiso elwela amalungelo abesifazana labantwana ebizwa ngokuthi iPhumulani. Ukhonapha-ke kwele Melika ubesichasisela-ke lapha ngokuthi ngempela udlakela lukhona kwabesifazana oluqondiswe kwabesifazana labantwana. Wasinika lo mzekeliso ukuthi kunje nje ukhangele udaba labantwana abathathu abadlwengulwayo khona-ke eZimbabwe badlengulwa-ke izihlobo, kodwa izihlobo zangikhona lokho zizihambela nje cala celeni, njalo uthi lokhu kuyabonisa ukuthi pho zingaki indaba ezihambelana laze nezo, lapho thola ukuthi umuntu oyenze odale icala katholi isijeziso esifaneleyo. Ngoba lapha eMelika umuntu odlwengula umntwana kumbe oyenza konke okubi uyazi ukuthi uzahlala ejele, kula ukuthi uzafumbathisa bani kumbe wenzeni. Kula lokho esizwa ukuthi federal crime, ukuthi ungavele uwone vele uzahlala ejele isikhathi eside. Ayisikho ukuthi uzathi hayi lwana uzangenzela ifavor, lwana uzangikhupha, lwana sizenza icorruption lapha lalapha. Hayi, uthi yikho kwenza kube lo mahluko-ke phakathi kokwenzakala lapha okwenzakala eZimbabwe lokwenzakala kwele Melika nxa sesikhangele udaba lokuhlukuluzana ezindlini olwe domestic violence lokuthi alukhethi mhlobo alukhethi ukuthi umuntu yena ufunde okunganani kumbe unjani uyafica ukuthi umuntu sibile efundile lama degree yakhe lawo uyahlukuluzwa endlini ngoba abesifazana kunzima ukuthi besukume bechiye umuzi wabo bahlala bekezelele layo besinika nje umzekeliso ukuthi laye enjana nje wayehlukuluzwa ngumkakhe waze wamchiya kodwa umyeni wakhe waze wamchiya kodwa abanye ke abasuki bahlala bekubhensele konke lokho bethi kumbe bahlalela abantwana kumbe bahlalela isithunzi ukuthi kungathiwa ngowesifazana ongendanga bayabefuna ukugcina lowo mendo behlale ke kuze kube njalo yikho kobe sitshela khona ukuthi usetholeke isicoco sokuthi usebenza kuhle lokunye okuningi nengi kodwa ke njengoba ngeke ngathi ukuthi silo nkosazana Ottilius Banda ke yena futhi umgcini sihlalo ogatsha lwabesifazana unhlanganiso elwela abahlali bakubulawayo Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association la usichasisela ke okunengi okwenzakala ngalapho sike sezwe asekukhulumile kuqala asizweni ke ukuthi uqhubeka esithini ngokwenzakalayo khona ngale Ottilia.
Thina njengenhlanganiso yezakhamizi i-Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association siyahlangana labantu kabanzi ngoba besiku-COVID besizama indlela zokuthi sihlangane labantu lama-stakeholders ahlanganisela yena umasipala kodwa uhlupho olukhona kathesi njengoba sikhulumile ukuthi intengo zonke ziyakhuphuka okukhuphuka kuze kukhuphuke kanye lama-rates ukuthi uthola izakhamizi sezingasakwazi ukuthi zenzeni ngokudula osokukhona okwama-rates osokudala ngitsho nokuhlalisana phakathi kwesigaba phakathi komuzi kulaba abanikazi bezindlu lalaba abangamatenant kube nzima ngoba labo bazabe sebekhezelwe njalo kumele bebhadale nge-US dollar. Okungaqeda lolu dubo ikakhulu yikuthi uhulumende anike umasipala ama-grant ayiwo ayethula umthwalo umasipala ukuze umasipala angathathi kakhulu kuzakhamizi. Njalo siyananzelela ukuthi kulamakhampani amaningi ayabe ekoloda umasipala okwenza umasipala laye adonse nzima. Inhlanganiso eziphathisayo zikhona loba nje zingake ziyenelise umphakathi wakobulawayo ngoba wona ukhulile. Silenhlanganiso eziphathisayo abaswelayo ezigoqela i-World Food Program isizile kakhulu kumawadi athize phose amalokitshi athize ikakhulu lawa alabantu abadala lapho abaphathise khona abadala kakhulu ngento ezinjengama-groceries kwasuka kathesi sebephathisa ngama-projects anjengokufuya inkukhu zamaqanda ukuze abantu bethole ukuzisiza. Ikhona i-social welfare iyasiza kodwa kuyasilela ukusiza kwangikhona ngoba izabuya mhlawumbe kanye ngomnyaka ikakhulu kuhlangothi lukamasipala eliyilesisebenzisana lalo phose malanga onke. Zikhona njalo inhlanganiso ezibasizayo abagogekileyo nabo bayaluthola usizo kodwa alweneli ngoba uvele wona umumo welizwe ungamanga muhle. Silazo inhlanganiso njalo ezisiza abantwana abangamantombazana phakathi komuzi kodwa azeneli ngoba esingakuthi yisilungu i-demand inengi labantu baningi kodwa inhlanganiso ziyele zizintutshwana lenzuzo zangikhona zizintutshwana kulapho esikhangelele khona. Yikho ngisala ngilokhu ngikhala ukuthi nga uhulumende uyangenela anike ama-grant kuthi lo hlangothi lwe-social welfare olukahulumende lalo luphatheke enhlelweni zokusiza ikakhulu abaswelayo abalupheleyo ngitsho labagogekileyo. Ngakho kuyatholakala lolu sizo bekuzayamukelela umphakathi ngoba kathesi umphakathi usebunzimeni obukhulu kakhulu lapho othola ukuthi izinto ziphela mihla namalanga, izakhamizi azisenelisi ukuphila impilo, kukhwela kuze kukhwela impuphu. Khuluma nje ngama-basic needs abantu, izinto ezi-basic zinzima kakhulu. Amagesi ayakhwela ngoba siphakathi komuzi, phakathi kwedolobho lapho kumele sikhanyise khona ngamagesi. Uthi usakhangela amagesi nango umasipala laye usefikile usekhwezile. Kodwa konke lokhu kungaphezu kwamandla awo. Umlando wonke siwuchiya kuhulumende ukuthi ngawe uyazama ukuthi asizane lamakhansili bebanike ama-grants lawana kade khona emuva, ngoba naye umasipala engayekela ukuthi thina sibhadale kuba nzima. Sizadutyukelwa yizitishi, idolobho lingcole, amabhimu engathwalwa, emakliniki siyehlule ukuthola usizo. So sikhala kakhulu ukuthi ngawo uhulumende uyangenela ancedise ngoba yonke into ayikho, and ama-basic commodities awakhontrola engingathi omunye lomunye uchaja ngitshilo ngaphambi kokuthi bachaja intengo abazifunayo. Akula muntu oyenelisa ukuthenga lezi zinto, osokudala indlala kakhulu phakathi kwedolobho, phakathi komuzi, okuzagcina kusasa kudalele ukudla.
Yebo-ke siyabonga-ke unkosazana Ottilia Sibanda-ke lapho lokhu siqhubeka ngengxoxo yethu obesichasisela-ke ukuthi what she was practically saying, Marv. Ottilia Sibanda, the chairperson of the women's branch, the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association. She couldn't join us live, so she's sending us this audio. She's saying that the other problems, people are just thinking of price hikes for basic commodities. The other problems frustrating the families are rates. They are council rates. They have to pay exorbitant, prices. They keep increasing everywhere, not just for foodstuffs, but for your electricity, for your water, for your everything. And people are really frustrated in their homes here. And she's saying that the problem of domestic violence, which we touched on last time, is that sometimes when women report these cases, they will go and withdraw them. So the circle is kind of a vicious circle because it comes back to the same person. Like once an abuser, always an abuser. That's what it seems like, because they usually get the same person coming to them seeking advice. And then when she withdraws, it's the same person again who will come. So they kind of perpetuate that cycle instead of breaking it. Over to you.
Aiwa apo tiri kunzwa munyarikani wedu vari kutaura ivo pamusoro pezvavari kusangana nazvo, vachitaura kuti kune dzimwe nguva vamwe vanenge vaenda kuwanikwa ivo vachinonyoresa kumapurisa kuti vanenge vawanikwa vachibhinywa, vanodzokera zvakare vachizonowanikwa vachiburisa nyaya yavo kubva kumapurisa. Saka regai timbotora munyarikani wedu muzvare comfort dondo tozoti aiwa nhasi vari kumhanya vane zvavari kubata zvakawanda, asi regai tinzwe kwavari kuti imo muno muamerica vanomboona here izvi zvichiitika kuti munhu anenge awanikwa iye awanikwa akwidza nyaya yake kumapurisa anodzoka zvakare achizoibvisa kubva kumapurisa. Anombosangana nezvakadaro?
Oh yes Aunt Marve, iyoyo itori pattern ichinoratidza kuti mudzimai anotora kuda 7 times before akwanisa kubva, kunyanya kana paine vana kana asiri kukwanisa kana paine vana then kana asiri kunyatsoshanda, kana paine mafinancial insecurities chinoitika izvozvo. Uyezve munhu anenge achiabhusa mudzimai wake ane nzira dzaanotyishidzira nadzo dzatinoti manipulation, dzinogona kumuti anorevhesa statement kumapurisa. Inini ndakatombozviitawo nekuti vana vangu vanga vari vadiki, matwins anga ari vacheche, ndisiri kukwanisa kushanda, ndofunga kuti ndinovakwanisa sei vana, and then kutya. Ndosaka pachida maprograms ekuti uve nesupport, ukakwanisa kuwana support nemaprograms then vanokuencouragea, so pfungwa dzako hautyi uri wega, unoproceda. Ndinoona madzimai akaona anoti handidi kuti baba vana vangu vapinde mutrouble, but ndinoda kuti behavior istop, and ndo inenge iri aim yedu kuti munhu behavior aite accountable, ndoiti accountability with love. Saka chinhu chinoitika kazhinji kumadzimai vanowanzonurivhesa ende hazviratidzike zvakanaka matare edzimhosva nekuti vatongi majudges anoti ko unenge wanga uchinyepa. Saka ndo rimwe basa randiri kubata muno muamerica, ndiri kudzidzisa kutraina ma-departments anonzi office of justice department, majudges, mapurisa, madetectives, kuvatraina kuti mukaona mudzimai achirivhesa statement yake hazvire kuti hazvina kuitika, asi ane zvimwe zvaanenge achitya. Saka ndovimba kuti basa iroro richaramba richikura, ticharamba tichidzidzisana nekuti domestic violence ndoti chinhu chakagosha kunyatsochinzwisisa. It's a very complicated phenomenon, domestic violence. Vanhu vazhinji havainzwisisi, asi tiri kutaura kuti tinzwisise kuti tiistope. Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of tips that you can give women, or what should a woman do as soon as she feels that she's being domestic, she's facing gender-based violence?
Number one, move out of isolation. Kana munhu achiabuswa anenge aiswa mu-isolation, buda musave isolated, number one. Number two, tsvaga 3 or 4 sisters that you confide in, that you trust. I know we outside of work we have a sisterhood that we establish, and me and you create those healthy circles of women that when you tell them what's going on, they don't judge you. Also be very careful in who you tell. Madzimai mazhinji anowanza kuti kuenda kuvafundisi, dzimwe nguva muchurch area try kutraina machurches, mapastor nyanya yechidzimai, they start to shame a victim. Namatraimba yako, usadon, and everything goes on the victim. Saka ndoti tsvaga madzimai vanenge ini vanonzwisisa for domestic violence, or confide in a few. Number 3, what are you losing? Chicho uri kuluza by staying in that relationship. Vanhu vauda kufadza, keeping up appearances, kudhendera vauda kufadza, paunovhara gonhi rako manheru vanenge vainewo here. Tinoziva madzimai akawanda vari kuabhuswa, vanoisa makeup, marowa, because they want to keep up appearances. They don't want to be labeled single mom. Indri single mom, but I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Dai ndakaramba ndiri mumarriage ngadai izvozvi ndiri handizive pamwe ngadai ndiri kumakuva. Saka ndoti find a tribe, don't be shamed, and then break your silence. Once you start breaking your silence, you will see how many more women are going through it. Yeah.
And so I don't know if you have a question for Miss Dondo before I drop her and you take your next guest.
My question is, for me or for
No,
sister?
for
No, she can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think this is a call to action. I just want to call a call to action. I would love to invite Zimbabwean women who are doing this kind of work, that we come together. Reach out, please. My name is Comfort Dondo. I'm going to be in Zimbabwe quite often. Reach out and let's brainstorm. We have a Me Too movement in Zimbabwe, that when I was 9 years old, I was sexually assaulted by my uncle. And I speak it. Because every time I say this, somebody says Me Too. And what that did for me in the book that I wrote, and the second book that's coming up, that's going to Hollywood, I talk about shame, child sexual abuse, and how it bleeds into your adulthood. And Mave, you'll be surprised. Anytime I share my story, because when I was 9, I was raped. When I was 9, it bled into my adulthood. Until I was 30 something is when I started to get help. And zvakaafecta zvinhu zvakawanda muupenyu hwangu. Saka ndoziva kuti nemadzimai kune akanteerera, iwe wakanteerera. If you have been violated as a child, know that look at all the issues that might be happening in your circle, in your life, and you can relate them to your childhood. I know young men who've been violated by a maid who was working in their home. So I want to tell parents, I wrote a book to empower you. This happens in our community, and it is a thorn. It is a poisonous thorn. When it happens to a child, it changes even biology yomwana, mafungiro ake. Saka ndoti call to action yangu ndekuti ngatibatanei. Let's form a coalition. If you are a survivor, even if you're not ready to share your story, let's form a coalition The only way to stop this pain that we face as adults because of abuse is that we start addressing it so that it stops for our children. And I request, can I find out Ashterera? Please reach out to the staff of VOA, or reach out to our program, because I really believe we have a lot of work to do. A lot of people are dying in silence or are medicating in silence. Addiction, PTSD, my mental health issues, my depression. A lot of the times, if you trace it, it goes back to childhood abuse. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please stay on the line. Over to you, Star.
Yeah, that's a very painful reflection there, especially to note that what she's saying, that usually abesifazana babecabanga ukuthi uyasixoxa ngowesilisa umalumakhe emncinyane, wadlwengulwa ngowesilisa umalumakhe emncinyane. Kanti-ke abesifazana-ke abaningi bakhangelela ukuthi umuntu odlwengulwayo ngowesilisa, kodwa thina siyabona ukuthi owesilisa nguye owandise ukudlwengula owesifazana, kodwa kwenzakala ukuthi abantu abagcinayo endlini laba babizwa ukuthi ngo-house girl, labo bayenelisa ukuthi bedlwengule umntanakho ongumfana. Ngabona abaningi ama-parents babe bengakuzwisisi lokho, besithi ulele lo muntu onje kasoze amenze lokho, bona becabanga ukuthi hhayi odlwengulwayo ngowesilisa kuphela, kanti hhayi lo mntwana laye ngadlwengulwa lapho. There is another aspect of domestic, another aspect of violence against women, Marvellous, which we, in the workplace, we notice that some people are not at work mostly, but for those few that are in the workplace, they are also facing problems of abuse. We have, for example, an organization that is fighting for the rights of waste pickers, waste as in trash. There are some people who pick that up and recycle it. They go and sell it. Well, we spoke to the organization last time when they were saying they are assisting these women so that they are not, because they are usually harassed by their colleagues, the pickers who are men. They will come and get their property, whatever they picked, take it from them, call them names that they are women, they should go and sit at home. So they also have these problems. Some, sexual advances, unwanted sexual advances. They get insulted. What are you doing? A woman, go and cook at home and look after your kids. Don't compete with us men who are picking the trash here for resale. They resell or they recycle, something like that. So people may think it's a small thing, but to them it's quite big because that's what they rely on for their livelihood. And we saw them last week meeting with the government, the ministries, so that they wanted to empower them on how they can make their business lucrative. So which means violence in the workplace still exists, although there's hardly many employment places to talk about, but there are still people who are employed who are experiencing those problems. And we were saying that it's very important, the point that was made by Mr. Ondo here, that usually maybe women will be on the lookout. That is probably their girl child who can be abused. But a boy too, watch out that maid, watch out that person who's sleeping with him. What are they doing? So people can talk to their children. And you also mentioned, Ms. Dondo, your own abuse. How did you get help? Do you think people should get help by the formal therapies that are there in hospitals, or is from themselves or from their relatives and friends? How should they go about the process of healing?
Muted. Thank you so much for that question, and thank you for bringing the point here, violence against women in the workplace. That is very, very, very common. And mune dzimwe nyika kune ma-rights emadzimai, kune dzimwe nyika ma-rights wayo haanyaso observe. Saka it's one that, thank you for bringing that up. And usually it's also coming from the home, right? Usually my advances akadaro kumudzimai iye kwataza mudzimai wake chaiye amubati zvakanaka and angodaro. In terms of living and seeking help, if you don't kana usina kupa chinhu zita, if you don't name it, it's not an issue. You have to identify. Inini how I left was ndakatanga kushanda muprogram yaita izvozvi zvekudzivirira violence. Ndikatanga kuverenga zvinhu zvavaidefina ndikaona kuti ndiri kuabhuswa kaini, nekuti kutanga kwazvo kwangu kusiri kurohwa. Hautanga uchirohwa, unotanga uchinyimwa mari, uchitorerwa mari yako, uchitukwa, uchidaidzwa mazita, then zvozvosvika kuphysical. Kazhinji vanhu vanoda kuti anokurova here, haasi kukurova, saka mashoko. Hanzi rurimi runokwanisa kuvaka kana kupunza kana kutanga moto in a whole forest. Saka emotional abuse. Saka madzimai anofanira ku-educate themselves, anofanira kudzidza abuse chimbori chii. Yeah. Indogara ndichiti kune vasikana vechidiki, if it doesn't feel like love, then it ain't love. Love protects. It's supposed to make you feel safe. Kana zvisina kumira zvakadaro, pane something chinofanira kuongororwa. Who reach out for help, program yedu, tinema advocates, they can reach out. Tinema collaborative working partnership, nema programs anenge musasa project, tinokwanisa kuconnecta. I know maZimbabweans tiri kwakatekeshera nenyika yese, wherever you are. Narina tiri kubatsira maclients vari kuSaudi Arabia, vamwe vari kuSouth Africa, Botswana. Tine vanhu vatinoshanda navo vari munyika idzodzo, so tinokwanisa kuita referral. Ndoti name it, confront it. As my book says, face your giants. Tinobva kuculture ineka kudzinyirira madzimai, but yange isiri culture yedu hayo, togona kutaura imwe topic zvakauya nevasina mabvi zvepatriarchy. Kare kwedu mastateguru edu airemekedza madzimai. Ndasaimbuya nehanda, madzimai akadaro vairemekedzwa, they were leaders, but pakauya vasina mabvi takatanga kusaremekedza madzimai. It's a topic I can spend a whole hour talking on.
Ms. Kondo, zeroing in on that, I think Star just wanted you to say in English some of the points that you were just giving out in Shona, and also where people can reach you.
Yes. So to answer my sister who just asked on how to identify that you're being abused, is say do your self-study. If it doesn't feel like love, it's not love. If it doesn't feel right, reach out to a few women that you trust. You have to trust them. Because what usually happens is when you reach out to the wrong person, they're going to malign you, they're going to victimize you further and shame you. And you'll start to feel like something is wrong with you. Feel free to reach out to our program. We have trained advocates and we operate all over the globe. So we have established working collaborative partnerships with other programs in other countries. I will always find a solution for you wherever you are. I say don't stay in silence, break your silence. If you're a young woman and somebody within your family is violating you and you're scared to speak up, reach out to me on Facebook and we can strategize how you break your silence. Abuse, it really festers. It's like an infection. When it's dark and there's isolation and there's no light, there's no exposure, it just festers and infects you more. Speak up, break the silence, but let's have a plan. Do it in a way that is planned out so that we don't cause more harm. And we can keep the perpetrators to account and get them help if they need help, if that's what they need. But I think for me, those are the main points that I want to leave. Don't stay in silence. Please break the silence.
And what's the name of your organization and where people can reach you?
Our program is called Phumulani. So Phumulani is Phumulani, Phumulani, Minnesota African Women Against Violence. I'm on Facebook, Comfort Dondo. You can also find us on Facebook. Our program is Phumulani. My heart is in the States. I'm in the States physically, but my heart is in Zimbabwe. I love to work with my Zimbabwean people, and so please reach out. I would like to see a lot of young people reaching out. We also, I want to mention before I leave, we have another form of violence that is really getting to be a problem. It's called dating violence. Our young people, they're starting to experience violence at a younger age. In the connection to domestic violence, we're assuming there's marriage, but there's also dating violence. And when people are younger, they cannot identify what it is. So we're also working to ending that, because that then grows into the marriage and then the cycle goes on and on. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, time is not on our side, so we are going to have to call it a day. I would like to thank the Comfort Dondo of Pumulani. She's based here in Minnesota in the United States, but she's also working with women in Zimbabwe who are facing, and other African countries are facing gender-based violence. And as she just said, she just got a big award with the Bush to be one of the Bush Fellows, and also is receiving an award tonight from the mayor of Minnesota for her work assisting women and girls.
Yes, hoping her words will inspire the women and the girls out there to reach out to their organizations if they are having any problems. Sibonge njalo lo Nkosazana Ottilia Sibanda, the chairperson of the women's branch at the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association, ukuthi la usixhasile lapha kuhlelo lethu. Olivalelisayo ke yimi uSithandekile Mhlanga, nsithi asidibaneni njalo ngolwesine oluzayo.